Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the last meeting of this sitting council, and our mayor, Doug LaRue, is away. We will not have, Councillor Mike Mayotte will not be with us either, and Councillor Debbie Levy is not with us this evening. So it certainly is my pleasure, my last council meeting after 27 years, and who would have thought that I would get to chair? It just kind of unfolded that way. I didn't ask for it. So it is 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. And I would ask council to stand as I repeat our council commitment. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed on Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of duties and responsibilities. May we be granted wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you. Thank you, Council. It's now my pleasure to turn things. Well, I'm not so sure because he is going to be making a few comments about the retiring councillors. So, Councillor Deputy Mayor-elect Dan LaRose, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We could make those comments change, but we'll see how it goes first.
Just teasing.
I just wanted to say, I always dread this night. It's the end of our time together as council. And I must say that because of the pandemic, it's been one of the strangest and most challenging four-year term I've ever been a part of. And I'm sure it's been the same for everyone. I'd also like to thank our town clerk, Stacy Cooper, our CAO, Jeff Lees, and Kelly Cole for their professionalism, hard work, commitment to making this council's job over the last 4 years run smoothly. We didn't always agree on our decisions, but they were all made in the best interests of the town. So Jessica, thank you for your contribution. You brought a breath of fresh air to council, which was nice to see for a change. Jill, it was a pleasure to work with you. Please continue to stay involved in the community as you always have. You've had a very major impact. George, you were a huge addition to council this term. Thank you for your wisdom and your expertise that you brought with you. Brian, it was great having you back on council. Your knowledge and understanding of the bylaw department and police services board was a very valuable asset and didn't go unnoticed. Debbie, although she's not here, she may be online. Thank you for your many years of dedication and commitment. You will be missed, especially at the planning department. As we all know, she spent a lot of her time there. Mike, he is a well-respected team player who has devoted several years to our council and has been an active member in our community. He will sorely be missed. To Doug, our chair, who's watching in Mexico or lying on the beach, I'm not sure which one, but thank you for your leadership, especially throughout the pandemic. You've always represented our town well. And last, and certainly not least, our chair tonight, our outgoing deputy mayor, Anita. You deserve a medal for the amount of time and devotion and commitment you have given to our town. Your love for our community is shown with every decision you've ever made. It's been an honor and a privilege to work with you. You're one of my best friends, and enjoy your retirement. Was that okay for comments? All right.
Okay, I was off sound. Thank you very much, Dan, and echo all of those great comments to all the members that are leaving. Some are young enough that will come back to council someday. Others maybe will float into the horizon and just give it up. Anyway, thank you very much for those words, Dan. Good. We will continue with our agenda. We will go on to number 3, which is approval of the agenda. Could I have a mover and a seconder for approval of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Vadabonker, seconded by Councillor Santama. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest, either now or at the time that the item comes forward. And our council information package, number 5. This is information that comes forward to us. Are there any items that anyone wanted to pull? Seeing none, I need a motion that we move forward. Moved by Councillor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Santama. All those in favor? Carried. And now we have a deputation, a presentation by Bill Montgomery. And he is here to speak to us in reference to Queen's Court development. Welcome, Bill. If you would go to the podium, you have 10 minutes. Yeah.
10 minutes, I'm not sure it's going to be enough because I spent a lot of time trying to learn how to address the mayor to come here. And now I'm told I can't do that, right? So Deputy Mayor Anita and councilors, I live at 14 Grew Crescent in the village of Bay Moorings. I'm also chair of the Homeowners Association. We have 123 homes in the village, and I'm here to talk about the village and the Queen's Court development. Specifically, it's about the Beck Boulevard, using it as for access to the construction equipment to build the subdivision immediately north of our village. The village of Bay Moorings is unique in that it is a public road running through the middle of it. There's another reason that makes the boulevard very unique. Here's a picture of Beck. And what you're seeing there is that on the right-hand side is Chamberlain Crescent. To the left is Grew Crescent. And it's very different too. Do you know why? Can you figure out why? Every one of the back doors of those houses is in view of the road. So all the residents' backyards, patios, and decks are facing the road. Normally backyards are on the other side. Here's a picture of one of the backyards. And that one is on the east side. We have one on the west side as well. There are 20 homes on the east side, and there's 8 homes on the west side. So there's 28 homes that will lose enjoyment of their backyards, patios, and decks while the construction equipment is using the road. I need to say something also about the other residents who will be affected as well. The construction traffic will hit these 28 homes the worst, but other residents will also be affected by the noise, dust, and fumes. But I thought that the 28 home owners would present the effective example of how to get our message across. We've submitted a petition signed by 186 residents offering a way to minimize this disruption. We're asking that the proposed entrance at Fox be used as the primary entrance, and that the back entrance be secondary. That way, the construction equipment noise, dust, and fumes will be minimized. Please consider this for us. I thank you. Are there any questions for me?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Montgomery, for coming forward this evening. We certainly will forward this to the new council. And yes, members of council, anyone have a question? Yes, Councillor Vadabonker.
Thank you. It's not a question to Mr. Montgomery. I think his presentation was very clear. It's a question to our Director of Planning with respect to the subdivision for Queens Court. Is this something that could be added to the subdivision agreement or the draft conditions as a condition of approval dealing with access to the construction for the development?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Vadaboncourt, this is absolutely something that could be included as part of the draft plan conditions and would be the obligation of the developer to use the Fox Street Road as opposed to Beck Boulevard for construction access. So that is something that staff will take back and consider as part of our discussions with the developers.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill, and thank you all for coming this evening. We've heard you loud and clear, and I do think that that was brought to our attention prior than tonight. This just reinforces the issue. Thank you. You're very welcome to stay, but that's not necessary. Goodness. Just leave it on, I know. Oh. Bill, I think you've left your jacket. Okay, council, we will move on to number 7, which is approval of our minutes. That the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Council, October 12th, 2022. Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor LaRose. All those in favor? Thank you. We will move on to our consent agenda. These are recommendations that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. A is bylaw monthly activity report. Number 2 is enabling accessibility fund application. Curling Club minutes of October the 11th. Memo to council re the Penetanguishene Sports Hall of Fame agreement. E is 2023 development charge annual indexing report, FIN 2022-26, and Midland Penetanguishene Transit Committee meeting minutes of Tuesday, June the 14th, 2022. Any member want to pull any of these items that are on our consent agenda? See, yes, Councillor Vadaboncourt.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I don't want to pull an item, but I'd like to comment on an item if I could.
Please do. Would you like to comment now? Which number?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. It's item 8E, the development charge annual indexing report.
Okay, good. Are there any other? Perhaps I could pull one. It's the enabling accessibility fund application. I think our Director of Recreation could speak to that. So I will look for a mover and seconder for the other items. Moved by Councillor Rose, seconded by Councillor Sanama. All those in favor? Carried. So the enabling accessibility fund application, if I could ask Sherry to speak to that just for an explanation.
Sure. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The 10-year capital plan includes a 2-phase development project for the Martin Valley Park. Originally, when it was put in the budget, we had projected about a $285,000 subsidy approach to funding it, that we would source grants to do so. We tried to source various grants, and the one that did come up earlier this year, we brought a council report forward, was an OTF capital grant opportunity, and maximum opportunity was 150,000. So we brought a report to council, getting support to apply for the grant, which would mean restructuring the way that it was funded, that it would require more development funds in order to do so. A second grant has since presented itself, the Enabling Accessibility Fund. That's through the federal government, and the initiative is to make public spaces more accessible. So given the short turnaround time for an application, staff applied. If successful, the town could get up to $100,000 from that grant. So we're looking at potential $250,000 total. We don't know the results yet of either application. But wanted to make council aware that the application was made. And once we know the results of those, then we can return to council to seek some further guidance in how we will fund the entire project based on those results.
Great. Thank you very much. Sherry, are there any questions? That's a good news story. Thank you. And then we'll move on to the development charge annual indexing report. Councillor Vadavonker.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Just a comment with respect to the indexing report. This is something that's done annually under the development charge bylaw. That's why it's on the consent agenda. Everybody knows that construction costs are increasing, pipe, if you can get it, lumber, et cetera, et cetera. The indexing is based on the construction index, and development charges are proposed to go up 15.6% effective January 1st, which is quite substantial. But again, it's a reflection of what construction costs are. So municipality collects development charges to undertake capital work and to address growth. And when the town pays for that, it needs to have the funds based on what those costs are. So that's why it's going up that much. We talked about it at section when we met, and there's a further report in the agenda that'll talk about some of the other initiatives from government that may impact development charges and what's collected and how they're collected and whatnot. But I just wanted to point out with respect to the percentage of increase for this coming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, then I do need a motion accepting the Enabling Accessibility Fund application and the development charge. So moved by Ms. Clue. I always struggle with that, Jessica. And seconded by Councillor Vadavonker. Thank you. All in favor? I'm a little rusty, I think.
Madam Deputy Mayor, just a question with respect to the letter from the Sports Hall of Fame, given that this is the last meeting of this council and they've made some requests in that letter, how will that be dealt with? The motion was just to receive it for information, but there's a series of requests there. Thank you.
I do believe our Director of Recreation could perhaps shed some light on that issue. Sherry?
Thank you. So the intent of the memo was to make council aware that they have canceled the agreement. And we identify that there are several requests, but staff require more time to work through them before coming forward to council seeking direction. So once we've done that, we will come forward to the new council with that information.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to number 9, which is matters for consideration. And our first item is a proposed 5-year preventative road maintenance plan, RDS 2022-15, that the proposed 5-year preventative road maintenance plan be approved in principle, and that the proposed funding increases to the plan be brought forward for council approval during the 2023 budget process. I would ask our director, Brian, if he has anything to add.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing to add to the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any counselor might have.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from members of council? Seeing none, I will, oh, yes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Just a question. With respect to the proposed asphalt rejuvenation for 2023, it has Chatham Street, the entire length listed there. And I'm just wondering about that. Could you just describe that project for council?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Vadaboncourt. The asphalt rejuvenation process is reserved for streets that have been newly constructed or are still in very good condition. It's one of our lower cost preventative maintenance treatments. And what happens is I could compare the treatment to adding or changing the oil in your car. It's not necessarily a highly visible maintenance treatment, but it's very key in terms of prolonging the life of the asset. And what happens is over the lifespan of asphalt, it becomes dry and oxidized. It loses its flexibility, and that's where you see the cracking occur in the early stages of pavement's life. What the asphalt rejuvenation does, it actually puts the oils back into the asphalt, rejuvenates it, it maintains its flexibility and prolongs its life.
Thank you.
Very good. Any further questions from members of council? Seeing none, I have read the motion, so I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor Sanama. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Move on to B, Phase 3 Harbor Point Subdivision Amendment Agreement, ENG 2022-14, that the town of Penetang enter into an amending subdivision agreement with Belil Penetang Developments Limited for Phase 3 of the Harbor Point subdivision upon the fulfillment of the requirements outlined in Section 3 of the agreement. Are there questions in reference to this, council? Not seeing any questions. I think it's something that happens pretty regularly, so I will call for someone to move the motion. I did read it, Councillor LaRose, and seconded by Councillor Vadaboncourt. All those in favor? Carried. C is in reference to the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT, requesting a waiver fee. RCS 2022-22, that the 100% fee waiver requests for the use of the lounge by the Community Emergency Response Team be approved as requested for the purposes of conducting training meetings. We all know that CERT is very popular within our community and do help us at all our events that we stage. So any questions by members of council? Do I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor LaRose. All those in favor? Carried. D, Snow Angels Canada Program, RCS 2022-23, that the town of Penetang promote the Snow Angels Canada Program for the 2022-23 winter season, and that $3,000 in funding for promotion be approved for the Community Development Fund Reserve, if needed, outside of the current 2022 budget. I would ask our Recreation Director, are you the one that will speak to this? Great idea.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. This initiative is coming forward through a recommendation of the Community Wellbeing Committee. The town recently adopted an age-friendly plan, which helps the community create a place where people can age more successfully in place. One of the barriers often for seniors and people with disabilities to live at home is snow removal. So the committee considered two options, and one is for an in-house program to run by municipal staff. Another is to embrace the Snow Angels Canada program that is already occurring and adopted by other municipalities. So staff are recommending, and the committee, that we do the Snow Angels program, and it's just a matter of promoting it. So volunteers and people in need would sign up through the agency, who would manage it themselves, and the liability would remain with the program.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation. Are there comments from members of council? I think it's a great idea. And the cost to implement and advertise would be well worth it. It is giving something to the community, and I think that's very important. So I did read the motion. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Sanama, seconded by Councillor Klug. All those in favor? Okay, we'll move on to E, which is our short-term rental licensing bylaw fines update. PL 2022-55. That council approved the amended short-term rental licensing bylaw. It's attached to number 2, PL 2022-55. Now, council recalls we've had a lot of discussion in reference to our short-term rental licensing. So questions? I see Councillor Rose has raised his hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I alluded to before earlier, to most people as they were coming in, I was asked by some of our incoming council if we could just defer this for 30 days so that they can get up to speed on it before it's passed. So we're not asking for a change, not asking for it indefinitely, just till our first council meeting gets going.
So are you making a motion to that effect?
Yes, I am.
Do you have a seconder?
I don't know. You'll have to ask.
Is there anyone sitting at the table that would like to second this motion? I don't see support for that, Councillor LaRose. Thank you for bringing that forward. But we have had a lot of discussion in reference to this item. We have taken some measures to help the transition, and I do feel that this council has done their due diligence, and I'm very much in favor of moving this forward. So do I have a mover to move it forward? Councillor Cummings, and seconded by Councillor Sanama. All those, yes, Councillor Vatabankar.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Just a comment with respect to what's being proposed this evening, and it's basically just to deal with the fines. So the administration of the fines, previously council had approved a number of set fines, and the process is that they need to go to the ministry for approval. And the ministry came back, Ministry of the Attorney General came back and said, some of your fines are a little higher than what we would generally approve, and there was some other issues with respect to some of the fines. So they've come back with some suggestions. Staff have taken that one step further and have proposed an administrative fine regime that's outlined in the report. So there's no substantive changes to the bylaw. The bylaw is as it was passed. It's just dealing with the administrative component of it. And we talked about it. We talked about it section just to get clarity with respect to what was being proposed, and it only deals with the fines. So I just thought as a matter of clarification.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Yes. Councillor
I need a
Cummings.
point of clarification then, because there is wording in the bylaw that has been changed and added. So I just need some clarification.
I will ask our Director of Planner, although Owen, the other planner, has been the go-to on this, but I'm sure Madam Andrea knows. So Andrea, if you could answer that.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, there is some changes within the text of the licensing bylaw, language changes that was recommended by the Attorney General, as well as a section had to be input to actually deal with the AMPS penalty section of the bylaw. So there was some technical revisions to the bylaw, but no substantive changes.
Does that answer your query?
It
Councillor
certainly
Cummings?
does. Thank you.
Very good. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cummings. I was not aware of that, so thank you.
And I will read the motion again because I missed the last paragraph. So that council approved the amended short-term rental licensing bylaw attachment number 2 PL 2022-55, and that council approved the administrative monetary penalty bylaw attachment number 1 to PL 2022-55.
Right.
So I do have a mover and a seconder. So all those in favor? Thank you. Carried. We will move on to F, which is Bill 23, Homes Built Faster Act, PL 2022-57. That staff be directed to provide comments on behalf of council of the town of Penetanguishene on Bill 23 in keeping with staff report PL 2022-57, including the following specific comments. Concerns that the change to the Ontario Heritage Act will substantially reduce or eliminate protection of heritage resources. Request the province to examine the natural heritage offset compensation changes to benefit the communities where natural heritage is lost or to those adjacent communities. Concerns with the ability of the public participant in decision-making through public meetings and their ability to file appeals. This is a substantial departure from traditional planning practice and undermines the protection of public interest. Suggests that the site plan control be allowed to continue for infilling sites or along the shoreline, but not greenfield development. Site plan control and design requirements are the tool municipalities use to ensure high quality compatibility design with existing communities. Within existing communities. Concerns with the changes to development charges, which will now be increase the number of developments that are exempt from payment, will add financial burden on the existing residents to make up those lost revenues. And finally, concerns with the increased administrative and financial management of affordable or attainable housing agreements, which are being downloaded to the municipalities. So this is quite a Bill 23 that has come forward. And our director has done a great job in putting this together. So Andrea, do you have anything that you would like to?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. As you can tell, that is quite substantial changes being proposed through Bill 23, and it does touch on a number of different provincial legislation. And so it has been reviewed internally. Obviously, at this point, they're just looking for comments from the public and municipalities on the proposed changes, and that those may be incorporated in the final version that is issued by the province. This is something that has been discussed both internally with staff and the local county planners, as in the report. And I'm sure it's not as fulsome as it could be. I mean, this was last week when this legislation came out. But there are some things in there that I think as a municipality, we need to make sure that the province is thinking of how it impacts our existing residents, the tax base, as well as, natural heritage, our built heritage, and our communities. So we'll craft a letter back to the province and submit that under the ERO postings and see what comes from, down from that.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Councillor LaRose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to make council aware that at county yesterday, Deputy Mayor and I were there, and there was quite a lengthy discussion about Bill 23 when people started to see that, we're not going to get our development charges, that existing people are going to have to pay for new growth. That was not going over well. Just as one example, the heritage part was a big deal. So just let Andrea know the county is also putting forth quite a lot of comments by the sounds of it. And so we're all the municipalities that were there. So hopefully the province will listen and maybe change their mind.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I totally agree that this should be sent. Bill 23 is really taking all responsibilities other than allowing it to happen in our municipality. It's taking them all away from us. And if we're looking at managed growth and we look at what we have as far as heritage is concerned or recharge areas, we will not have control over that if this Bill 23 goes through. So I'm fully support this.
Very good. Thank you for those comments. Yes, as Councillor Rose said, was major discussion at the county floor yesterday. Lots of opposition, although some good things, but very few. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? I don't remember that I asked. Moved by Councillor Rose and seconded by Councillor Cummings. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Move on to G, fees and charges bylaw annual update. That the proposed amendments to the fees and charges be approved, and that the new fees and charges take effect January 1st, 2023. And finally, that staff be directed to bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval. Can I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor Klug. Thank you. Is there discussion? I remember Jessica. Yes, Councillor LaRose.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I alluded to before with the other one, this was another request that we received from a number of the incoming people, and they just wanted us to defer the fee schedule till our next new council meeting, just so they didn't want us to be implementing it and them having to live with it, just in case they wanted to look at it, change it, have a go at it. Not sure. We were just asked if I could bring that forward, so we have brought that forward.
Thank you for those comments, but if we don't deal with this tonight, that means that charges perhaps at the beginning of the year would go on for a month or two, a loss of revenue.
It would be dealt with before the new year.
Madam Clerk, is that?
Sorry, just a point of procedure. You do have a mover and a seconder for this motion. If you're considering, I know Councillor Russin what he's asking, but technically he didn't ask for the motion to defer before you got a mover and a seconder for that motion.
Okay, I do have a mover and a seconder for this motion.
Councillor Rose, are you asking for a motion to defer officially? Is this versus
Oh,
just a
yeah,
comment?
okay.
So then that procedurally that needs to be taken
Thank you, Madam
precedence.
Clerk. So you're making the motion.
Yes, I would like
Do
to
you
make a
have
motion that be deferred for 30 days or 40 days, whatever it is.
Do you have a seconder for that motion? Is there a seconder for that motion? Oh, yes. Councillor Klug first.
Just a question, if we can have our treasurer speak to the impacts of the deferral.
Yes, thank you. And Madam Clerk.
Sorry, Madam Deputy Mayor. So with a motion to defer, there is no debate. The debate is only whether or not it is deferred indefinitely or to a specific time. There's no,
That's right.
mind you, this isn't a debate. It's a point of clarification. So I'll leave it to the chair to make that call.
Thank you for reminding me of that, because when a deferral is asked for, there is no debate, but we still need a seconder for your motion of deferral. I don't have a seconder at the moment. Councillor Vadaboncourt is seconding the motion, so it is deferred. So the only thing that we can debate is when it comes, no debate. Okay. We have a mover and a seconder. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Point of order, Madam Deputy Mayor. I think Councillor Klug had a point of clarification and I had a point of clarification
Oh.
I wanted to ask as well. So
Yes,
before we get to the voting.
please
Thank you.
go ahead. Jessica, yes, she had a, yes, Madam Treasurer, please.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor, through you to Councillor Clue. I can't really put a figure on the financial impact of deferring, but obviously this fees and charges annual review, which we do typically present in November so that it's ratified typically before the year end for an effective date of January 1. The entire fees and charges schedule has been reviewed by all departments. So the financial impacts would be pretty well under every department. The only other thing I would say is that if it is deferred for new council to review it, if it, ideally, if it could be done December council meeting, and that way it could still take effect January 1, which was the intent.
Thank you for that. Councillor Vadaboncourt, you had a question of clarification as well. Go
Thank you,
ahead.
Madam Deputy Mayor. My question is to the clerk with respect to what is the December council meeting schedule?
Don't have it right in front of me, but I'll look to our CAO to confirm that it's the December 14th, Wednesday, December 14th is the next regular council meeting.
And if I may, Madam,
Yes.
that's the only meeting in
The other meetings that we have at the end of November and the other meetings in December are specifically budget meetings
okay. I was just-
and committee meetings.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Madam Deputy Mayor, about the opportunity for the new council to consider this and to take the action that staff are recommending. And what I'm hearing is December 14th would be the date. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have further questions. Yes, Councillor Cummings.
Just a question regarding the bylaw. That bylaw would not come to council until January, would it? If they discuss it and go, if we do the deferral.
Madam
That's correct.
Clerk?
If it's brought to the committee of the whole meeting for staff to receive feedback and make changes, then the bylaw would be brought forward at the January council meeting.
Thank you. Ooh, that's an alert. Yes,
Just a comment, and if there was no changes, the bylaw could be passed that night on December 14th.
well, it would have to be brought on the council agenda, not the
Correct.
committee of the whole.
We've done it
agenda.
both on the same night many times.
Yes, we have. Does that answer all the queries? Satisfied? Yes, Councillor Sanama.
Sorry, just one more clarification, please. If we approve this as it sits right now, it is going to be up to the next council as to whether they accept it or not, when they accept the minutes. Is that not the case, or just from a timing perspective?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. As of today, this report as well as the bylaw are both on this council agenda, so they would both be approved in tandem. And once it's approved, then it would be put in force starting January as it is written.
That was the same as my, excuse me, that was the same as my comment. It's on tonight on both agendas. So it's not that we haven't done it all in one night before. We're doing it possibly tonight, so.
Okay, thank you. Further clarification needed? I do have a mover and a seconder. So I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the deferral. Okay, so that's passed, carried. Thank you. Okay, move on to H, which is to provide for a 2023 interim property tax levy. That staff be directed to provide for a 2023 interim property tax levy, and that staff bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval. Do I have a mover? Councillor Sanama? A seconder? Councillor Vadaboncourt? This is a yearly event. It's pretty straightforward. So are there any questions, members of council? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. The next one is to authorize a temporary borrowing of funds to meet the current expenditures until 2023 taxes are collected. That the mayor and treasurer are authorized to temporarily borrow funds if required to meet current expenditures until 2023 taxes are collected, and that staff bring forward the necessary bylaw for council approval. A mover, moved by Councillor LaRose, seconded by Councillor Sanama. Discussion. This again is very normal happening once a year. We deal with this. So I will call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, council. Okay, we'll move on to number 10. It's the presentation and consideration of reports from the Committee of the Whole. And the first one is that recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to recreation and community service section be approved. Moved by Councillor Cummings and seconded by Councillor Sanama. All those in favor? Carried. That the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to planning and development services section be approved. Moved by Councillor Vatabancourt, seconded by Councillor Clue. All those in favor? Carried. That the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to transportation and environmental sections be approved. Approved by Councillor LaRose and seconded by Councillor Clue. All those in favor? Carried. Recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to finance and corporate services section be approved. Moved by Councillor Sanama, seconded by Councillor LaRose, Councillor Cummings. All those in favor? Carried. Notice of which motions have been previously given. We have none. Notice of motions, none. Consideration of bylaws. So, Madam Clerk, is there a bylaw within this list that we will not be dealing with? Okay. But all the others we will be dealing with. Very good. Bylaw 2022-53 being a bylaw to provide to amend bylaw 2011-92 being the municipal heritage tax rebate for properties designated under the Ontario Heritage Act. Bylaw number 2022-54 being a bylaw to appoint Baker Tilly Canada as the auditor for the Corporation of the Town of Penetanguishene and its local boards for a 5-year term, fiscal years ending 2022-2026, with a possible extension of an additional 1 year. Bylaw 2022-56 being a bylaw to authorize the temporary borrowing of funds to meet current expenditures until 2023 taxes are collected. Bylaw 2022-57 being a bylaw to provide for a 2023 interim tax levy for the payment of taxes and to provide for penalty and interest of 15% per annum, which is 1.25 per month. Bylaw number 2022-58 being a bylaw to license, regulate, and govern short-term rental accommodations. 2022-59 being a bylaw to establish and amend subdivision agreement with Belil Penetang Development Limited, Harbor Point Division Phase 3. 2022-60 bylaw to establish a comprehensive system of administrative monetary penalties for the town of Penetanguishene, and that the council of the town of Penetanguishene introduce 2023, 2022-54, 2022-56, 2022-57, 2022-58, 2022-59, 2022-30, and that the bylaws be read a first time and deemed to be read a second and third time and carried. Yes, Madam Clerk.
Just a point of clarification, the last bylaw 2022-60 and you said 30, just, it's okay, just to make sure everyone's aware.
Very good. No, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Counselor Sanama, seconded by Counselor Cummings. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council. Question period from the media and the public. We have public here. Thank you. Please come forward, come to the podium. Just you. Oh, you would like to speak too? Thank you. Just state your name.
Dennis McEntee. I'm a resident of Penetanguishene. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question tonight is in regards to agenda item number 8E for Edward, the development charge annual indexing report. Councillor Vadaboncourt referred to earlier on, and Councillor LaRose also made a comment with respect to that. And it's noted that the proposed charge is in the neighborhood of 15.5%, which, you know, on its surface is a pretty startling number. And, you know, it's certainly being heard loud and clear, and in this recent election for sure throughout the municipality about the shortage of housing, and particularly geared to income housing and low income housing. So my question is, if we're going to increase the development charges by these kinds of numbers, and I'm only going by memory because I did read the report, and I think I stand corrected, but we're looking in the neighborhood of a development charge of $20,000 for a single family home. And when you add on the county slice, the educational slice, we're looking at around $40,000 for development charges for a single family home. So with that, my question is, how does that fit with everybody saying, yeah, we got to have more housing. We got to encourage developers to build more housing. And this, to me, on its surface, in its simplest terms, just looked like we're throwing a huge impediment that just flies in the face. It just doesn't add up to me. So is there any like cap? First off, I just think that coming up with the formula that it's based on the cost of a 2x4, I think is just wrong. I'm just concerned that on the one hand, we're saying, yes, we're going to pull out all stops and do everything we can to build more houses. And then in the same breath, we're saying, yeah, but you know, we got to take our chunk, and our chunk is going to be north of 15%. And I just don't know how that's sustainable, and I don't see how the two work together. So thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. McEntee. I know it is an issue, and certainly Council wrestles with this all the time. I'm not sure, Mr. CAO, perhaps you'd like to enlighten us somehow. I know that there is a formula that we follow, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess a couple pieces I would add, and then I would invite either our Director of Finance or our Director of Planning and Community Development to weigh in as well, with your indulgence, Madam Chair. In terms of the formula itself, certainly it's not something that, you know, the town of Penetanguishene invented. This is quite common amongst municipalities with development charge bylaws to lean on the building cost index or the construction price index in their bylaws. Our bylaw specific to Penetanguishene indicates that we shall index our rates. And certainly that would be something that future council or future bylaws through the bylaw process, a future council could consider. The concept is that development pays for development, and that we're not spreading the costs of that on the general tax levy. While saying that, I do recognize Mr. McEntee's point with respect to affordable housing. Certainly, it's a very delicate and important topic in all municipalities. But I think if I just think about the principle and the concept of the why or the rationale, it really is to not spread the cost of that development across the general tax levy. We do have other kind of things that we've implemented or that we're working towards, and certainly the Bill 23 report that was previously entertained does speak to some of that in terms of what the province has pushed out. But I would say that certainly in our zoning bylaw, for example, we have included some provisions that will assist with affordable housing. I think we're very proactive from a municipal standpoint with a number of mechanisms in our zoning bylaw. And certainly I would say that our friends at the county are doing a lot of housing and affordable housing, attainable housing work. That certainly is in line with what the province is pushing out from a legislative perspective. So there's a number of spokes to this wheel, if I can say that. And certainly I hope that sheds a little bit of light on the correlation with the concept of indexing the development charges, but also the importance of attainable housing. Madam Chair, if you're okay, I don't know if our Director of Planning and Community Development or our Director of Finance would like to add anything, but I'll leave that up to you, Madam Chair, to provide that permission.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. I see that our Director of Finance has her hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. And just in response to the comments already made, just to add a couple more. So our development charges are based on our DC background study that we do every 5 years. Bill 23 is attempting to change that to every 10 years. But regardless, within the DC background study, it does identify growth-related capital infrastructure projects and the costs to do that, and the share that is eligible because it's a portion to new growth in our community. So as costs rise to complete those projects in our background study, and if we don't index our development charges and construction costs are increasing very high right now, if we can't afford to get those infrastructure projects done further to the growth that is occurring, then the costs are going to be spread out to the existing residents. And that contravenes the concept that growth pays for growth, where it should be the new development and the new homes are paying their share of the capital infrastructure required to support the new growth. And I guess the only other thing I'll comment on is that affordable housing, we do have a DC development charge deferral program. So that does encourage affordable housing under the definition of affordable housing. We do have a DC deferral program that would encourage affordable housing to be constructed in our community.
Thank you very much for that. So I hope that has given you some information. One supplemental, and then we will move on.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor. My supplemental question is, how do our proposed development charges? Oh, I thought it was on. I got the green light on.
Sorry.
Okay, so how will our proposed DC charges coming into effect January 1st? How do they compare with our neighboring municipalities or the normal comparators that we look at in comparing?
We do that. Perhaps Mr. CAO, can you?
Madam Chair, I don't know that anyone here tonight has that information with us, but certainly we're prepared to get it. It is something that gets presented when we do our development charge background studies. So certainly we're happy to get that information and ensure that Mr. McEntee receives it. I would say that, the changes that have occurred since that last background study that was done would be this indexing, which, as I said, is not uncommon in the municipal world. So we may not have the most up-to-date rates as of 2023 of all our comparator municipalities when the last bylaw was done. But certainly we can provide the last set of data that we do have in terms of the comparators. We're happy to provide that information, Madam Chair.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. McEntee. Yes, if you would like to come forward, sir.
Name is John Barnes. I live on Corbeau Street in Penetang, and thank you everybody for letting me speak. I'd like to talk about 9A, the rejuvenation project, road maintenance plan. This road rejuvenation was applied to our street. It made my wife and I very, very sick because it wasn't done properly. I don't know if I can ask 5 questions. Can I ask 5 questions?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I'd like to know if a MSDS or STS, whichever one has been supplied, has been completely revised and submitted. There's a lot of questions on the SDS that are very, very vague. The most important one is it describes prolonged exposure, and the words are avoid prolonged exposure. It doesn't tell you how long prolonged exposure is. It could be an hour, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 days. It needs to be clarified. There is nothing in the MSDS about your pets. On the company's website that does this, there's a warning not to walk your pets on this newly laid material. Your pets can be hurt, and we got to pay the bill. We can't prove that caused my dog getting sick. Sorry. I think that the application of this stuff needs to be supervised. The product that was laid down on our street was not properly put down. The material is supposed to be put down in a proper thickness. Apparently on our street, they were overly ambitious with it, and there was puddles. There should be no puddles of this stuff. There should also have been a sand application made to this product immediately after the application of the fluid. That sand application was never applied. It was never applied. My wife and I, we were confined to the house on a lovely long weekend. We couldn't go out in our backyard. We couldn't go in the front yard. I wanted to paint my porch. I couldn't leave the house. I have a lung condition. My wife has more allergies than anybody in this room combined. She's very sick. She was unable to leave the house for at least 2 days. It shouldn't have been. The other thing that it does, it didn't affect me, but my neighbor. If you have a concrete driveway, you can't drive on this stuff and then park on your driveway. My neighbor found out inadvertently by asking if it was okay to drive on the road. And there was a remark from the driver, yeah, as long as you ain't got a concrete driveway. Well, it just so happened that she did. Driving on that stuff in the concrete driveway results in stains. People need to be notified. You can't just rely on people going on a website. I never knew that there was a Penetang website until this day happened. I had no idea at all. There was no leaflets coming around in the mail with warnings. If you have some sort of respiratory illness, then maybe it's a good idea if you could find accommodations while this stuff is being applied. I could have easily gone to my son's house. I found out after this was happening, he'd left. I'm sorry for being so long-winded. But I could have gone and stayed at my son's place. Unfortunately, he wasn't home. I couldn't afford a hotel. And I'm pretty sure that if I submitted a bill here for one, it ain't going to get paid. I just think that that letter in the mailbox would be very, very helpful when this next application is applied. Whatever, but just leaving it to a website is great for people who check it every day. Not many people do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for bringing your concerns forward. Certainly, you've raised a few issues, and our director of he is here with us, so I'm sure that he took notice of comments that you were made, and hopefully we can, perhaps putting the residents on notice is not asking a great deal. If it saves someone from getting sick, it certainly is something I'm sure Brian will take under advisement, and hopefully we can do a better job. Thank you very much for coming forward. One thing, and then the CIO would like to speak. Yes, sir.
I did send an email to the mayor. It went totally unrecognized. And I got a very, very lovely visit from Mr. Murray. And
Very good. Thank you. Mr. CIO.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I was actually just going to touch on that last piece, just so that council's aware. Mr. Murray, our Director of Public Works, did respond to the email that was provided or sent from Mr. Barnes. 3 weeks ago, Mr. Murray responded, Brian responded, and I'm not sure that they have been able to, or I wasn't certain, I should say, that they were able to have discussion, but I understand that they recently had an opportunity to chat, meaning Brian and Mr. Barnes. The other thing I would say is from the town's perspective, we do identify that there is an opportunity from a communication standpoint to provide written notice to residents. So that's certainly a takeaway for us, and we appreciate the feedback from Mr. Barnes. That was really what I wanted to provide. And as you identified, Madam Deputy Mayor, I'm sure that we've taken some notes around some additional comments, and perhaps some of those have been no surprise to staff given the recent discussion that Brian had with Mr. Barnes.
Very good. Thank you very much for those comments. Are there further comments from the public? Seeing none, I will move on to announcements and inquiries. And if I may indulge everyone for just a moment, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. This is my last meeting, and certainly I will miss everyone, and I will miss the whole circle, I guess, that goes along with politics, but I'm not moving town. I'm still going to be involved in our wonderful community. Everybody knows that it is my second love. My first love, of course, is family, but I'm very, very, very pleased to see of the advancement that our community has made over the years. And certainly wanted to say goodbye, but no, just farewell, not goodbye. I'm still here and will stay involved in whatever capacity I can. So thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Our confirmation bylaw. That our confirmation bylaw 2022-61 be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. Moved by Councillor Cummings, seconded by Councillor Sanama. All those in favor of adjournment? Great. Thank you, everyone. Oh, I'm so sorry. Motion for adjournment is always been Councillor Cummings. So I will rescind the first one we made and we'll change it to Councillor Cummings. All in favor? Thank you.